So smart cities is a topic we've all talked about for more than a decade at this point. And I think we probably are all here because we agree we have not yet achieved the smart city holy grail. But up here on the panel, we're lucky to have people that are innovating in the field with technology in the right of way. And so I'm going to kick it off with a question to each of you. And I'm going to start with Eugenio from Rome. The cities represented here today, and I think in the audience, are dealing with infrastructure that's been in place for centuries, historic context. How do you balance preserving the right-of-way and the things we hold dear about a city like Rome with technology and innovation in your day-to-day?
Well, yes, we have to explain that Rome and all the capitals are very specific issues. Because they are not like other big cities. We have a lot of national functions, international functions, a number of tourists coming into the city during the year. There's very high numbers. In the last year, we have nearly 35 million tourists coming to Rome. And at the same time, we have not only tourism, but demonstrations and strikes that have in the capitals, but you don't have in the other big cities, because they don't have ministry, they don't have international organism that are in the city. And at the same time, you have cultural events and sports events that in the capitals are, but in the other city don't have place. And so this made the city, the capitals, also the archaeological capitals like we are, a very specific cities that have to be treated in a very specific way. And you cannot do also only with the infrastructures, only with public transport, only with the opportunities. But the technologies are one of the priorities that you have to put in place. And so we saw it when we introduced the tap and go for the public transport, how the response of the people was. Before they were, they take the paper ticket and they go on public transport. And just when we introduced that, the response was unbelievable. Now we have nearly the 50% of the transaction made with a credit card, and in all the buses, all the tram, all the trolley buses, all the metro. And so I think that what we're going to introduce with mobility as a service, that I think that would be one of the revolution about public transport that we will have, make it all the vectors of the multimodality in. I think that is the future and is the present, and is what we have to do to make better accessibility, easier for all kind of people, people with disability, people, ancient people, and everybody. And so that is the future, and that we want to do in our city.
Amazing. Charles, I'd love to bring to you. In the US, there are 8 car parking spots for every single vehicle. Americans are infamous for having designed their lives around the vehicle, I think you all know, but we're not alone. Montreal is lucky that you're tackling parking. Can you tell us more about how it fits into a smart city?
Yeah, of course. Well, interestingly, cars have been in our cities for the last 100 years. And with car came parking. The interesting thing is that over those 100 years, we didn't learn much about parking. We don't really know about the science of immobility. We don't have much data about parking and parking use and parking habits. For example, and the reason is simple. The industry was very highly fragmented all these years because the cities, contrary to public transportation, never really centralized planning of parking. They actually gave it to the private sector, which created an overabundance of parking, off-street parking. And we never really bothered, and no cities really bothered managing the curb, actually. The curbside management, as you know, is a very recent concept, and it is what it used to be called parking management. And we all know that it's very politically sensitive to actually touch parking, the same way it is sensitive to, for example, talk about congestion pricing. And that's the interesting part, because cities have total control over parking. They can do whatever they want with it. They can charge for it, and parking is extremely powerful. If a motorist, just imagine that parking is too expensive or unavailable at destination, you will not go there, or will go with another mode of transportation. So it's interesting to see that really no cities are interested in touching parking so much, even though we know that parking is the #1 factor in modal choice. It's also interesting to see that over 100 years, and with all the technology that I see on the floor, nobody's really interested in understanding the behavior of motorists when it comes to parking, technology related to parking. So it's all a field that is still nascent after 100 years. And this is why the city of Montreal created the Agence de Mobilité Durable. It's for that reason, to tackle that issue. And it takes a lot. In Montreal, and I'll close on this, parking is 75% of the space of given to the car. So it's a lot of space, and it's mostly not always used.
Absolutely. So it's making transit easier with a tap, and then making parking impossible. Lola, first of all, we're so grateful to be a partner to the City of Madrid, supplying bike share equipment through the BC MAD program. So thank you for that partnership. But public-private partnership really can be a foundation to innovate from. In Madrid, can you tell us some experiences you've had with that you think are successful and examples for other cities?
I can hear you very well. Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, I was asking you to speak to public-private partnerships and the concept of your work. Yeah.
The public-private partnership. Oh, yes. Okay. Well, we are working with the parking areas, with the private-public collaboration, and I think we are now creating mobility hubs where you can find electric charging, car sharing, motor sharing, lockers, logistics area. And I think it's a very good example of the private-public collaboration in the city.
Okay, great. Ahmed, I'd love to turn to you. Obviously, telecommunications is a critical part of a smart city. Can you speak more about 5G and how you're using data to better manage public spaces and partnerships with cities, like here in London?
Yeah, definitely would love to. So when you think about it, at the end, communication is actually at the center of the whole smart cities. So, I mean, we need to connect all the devices, ensure that this data can be transferred to the cloud, and then from there we can do all the possible analytics. Today, as an example, we offer a platform, what we call location analytics platform, that uses different IoT devices out there through mobility and through other aspects as well. We can get a really good figure of, in an anonymous way to keep the privacy right, we can get a really good feeling of everything happening across the city, and then we can help the councils, we can help the city in general to ensure that we have the right efficiency, we have the best experience for our customers. When you think of 5G, 5G takes that now to the next level. So 5G is more of a fit-for-purpose technology that comes with every use case. It offers the different types of connectivity. So if you would like to have security cameras that require very high capacity of connectivity, then I can create a slice specific for these kind of use cases. But then if you have other use cases like connected autonomous vehicles, for example, where latency is super important, then I can connect kind of a virtual different connectivity for these devices, which basically enables us to think of use cases that were not possible when in a 4G world. The second thing is that we can support millions of devices at a very small area, which means, again, that we can connect every aspect of the environment and then get a full feeling of everything happening, whether it's air pollution, whether it's mobility, whether it's actually the movement of people all across. And then by correlating these factors together, you can start thinking of a better future for the environment, and again, how to bring more convenience for our citizens in that case. The third part of 5G is what we call as well edge computing. So we can kind of bring the network to the edge, very close to where the area is. So even if you have problems across globally impacting other areas, you still can get a very good feeling of what the problems you have on that specific area. You can take actions on the spot, so we can reach a state where we can change the factors itself of the traffic to ensure that people on that area are getting a better experience within milliseconds of the place. So again, you're just boosting your connectivity to a totally different, smart kind of connectivity, and then you can enable use cases that were not possible before 5G.
Amazing. Edwin, from Mobility's perspective, I'd love to hear how you're working with autonomous technology to empower city planners in a new way.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar with Mobility, we develop our own self-driving technology and go to market with cities. So rather than robo-taxis or some of the other go-to-market approaches, our goal is to work with cities to help them create better public transit. So like some of the other speakers, I loathe parking. I hate the fact that cities are clogged with personally owned vehicles, both when they're being driven and when they're being stored after being driven. But the challenge in most of North America, as well as all around the world, is that oftentimes public transit doesn't work very well. If you're looking at North America, where we've built to a car-centric model, it's incredibly hard to deliver effective public transit in sprawling, car-dependent areas. And so the consequence of this is that you end up with buses that are driving around empty, carrying nobody, but still costing the city around $150 an hour to operate those buses. So our vision is to find those places where buses don't perform very well and to replace them with on-demand microtransit. In this case, autonomous vehicles, because that's a great answer to the physical space that people want, a sense of personal safety, but also a solution to a driver shortage problem. So instead of waiting for a bus for 90 minutes, you pull out your phone, and to the rider, it feels like a Lyft or an Uber-like experience. You request a ride, the vehicle comes to you, takes you to your destination, and it's not taking up parking space. It's helping make cities more beautiful, more accessible, and that's really what excites us.
Excellent. So this is more of a question to anyone that wants to jump in, but pilot programs can typically be a way to innovate and try new things quickly. Do you have experience with a pilot program that you think has moved progress faster forward in your own experience?
I'm happy to start. So actually, we're running multiple pilots at the moment. One of them is actually, which is very close to my heart, is what we call network as a sensor. So we're basically, since we have base stations across the whole country, so what we're doing is that we started to pilot with deploying sensors for air pollution. We started on Glasgow, and we're trying to see what are the initial results. But from there, we can get to really understand what's the level of pollution there, correlate that to the mobility aspect of it, how many cars are there, how people are moving there, what kind of events and seasonality that happens. And from there, we can start recommended ways to decrease the air pollution and make the environment better. So again, this is a good example of a pilot in one area, and then we're trying to think of how to scale that further across the city, and then can help us on the big CO2 problem that we have globally.
We've done a lot of pilots. We've operated in about 14 cities at this point, all across the United States and in Japan. Pilots are a natural way to start. Take baby steps, show that there's acceptance of the riders, show that you're able to work with regulators and community stakeholders, first responders. But one thing that I think we've learned is that pilots have to have that vision of what happens after the pilot. And it's very easy for a pilot to get an initial block grant and then for everything to come to a screeching halt at the end. And that's a huge lost opportunity for everyone involved. The residents who got used to a new service or a new capability, got excited about the future, and then come away thinking, oh, I guess it was just one more pipe dream that's not going to come to be. So that would be my central message about pilots. Let's do them, but let's make sure there's a path that extends them and grows them over time.
Well, sure. The agency has, to support our vision, we have a very extensive technological program. the problem is that the industries or the technologies are not yet mature enough, actually, to answer our needs. So we do a lot of pilot project. What we discover through all these projects is we tend to focus too much on technology and not enough on the labor impact, the impacts on the customers, on the citizens, especially on the labor force. And that is something that we need to focus a little bit more. Good example is all the automatic cars, robo-taxis. Taxi and ride-hailing are under the agency's jurisdiction, and the city is asking us to actually implement automatic cars for in the next 10 years, do some pilot projects. But the real question, a bit like my colleague just brought up, what do we do after? And what we're discovering now is that we'll have a transfer of the labor force from drivers to different jobs. Some people will do maintenance, some others will do programming, engineering, mechanics. So there's a real question to when we do pilot project, to focus more on the person, the people that will develop it, but also use it and the impacts on the citizen, and maybe less on the solution itself. Technologies usually can be adapted and they will be developed and there will always be a solution most of the time.
Well, the Rome, like I think all the capitals, we made a group with Madrid and of the capitals in Europe. Each one of us has agency of innovation in mobility that made SUMP, the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, that we have to do like a goal that European Union put on us to do until 2027. And that is the vision that we put in place. In that vision, there is an infrastructure plan, a public transport plan. What we do on disincentive of car, because one of the most important problems that we have is the number of cars in our city. Sometimes we have more cars than driving licenses, and so this is a very huge problem, because there's not only a problem of pollution, but there is only a problem that the spaces in the streets, there's no more spaces. So the problem of parking is a second problem. The first problem is that we have to reshape the urban spaces because in the streets there are cars that are not only parked for for a day, for 2 days, for a week, but there are cars that are still in the streets for months and for years. So you have to have a vision, and in that vision you have to do pilot, and that can be not only pilot for months but for years. And so we have a lot of pilots. But I think that like technology is technology is not a goal. Technology is an instrument if you have a goal to achieve. Like an old philosopher used to say, there is no good wind for the mariner who doesn't know where to go. And so we have to know where to go and then choose the instruments and the mean how to go there.
Great.
Yes, I think in Madrid we have the same problem as in Rome. We are a capital too. And of course, we are using the technology to take advantage of the technology. For example, with some application for the urban distribution goods, and of course, to planify the city. And also we are working with the reshape of the city, recovering public space for the citizens. But yes, the pilot project is for the small things, autonomous vehicle. We are also working with the urban mobility urban air mobility, sorry. And in this case, yes, we are using the pilot project, but I agree with Eugenio that we need a vision for a better city, more sustainable city.
Excellent. So if we are giving so much space to the motor vehicle now. If you all had a magic wand and you could implement one program tomorrow without approvals, what would the program be that you think would move the needle the most on taking that space back?
Well, that's an easy question for me
Yeah?
to answer. Well, mobility hubs. Off-street park, well, every city, especially since the pandemic, every city wants to better use the on-street space, either for bike path, bus lanes, terraces, and what's not. EV charging station, mobility station, bike sharing, whatever. All those modes of transportation need space. So we need to move that, and the car won't disappear. One area where there's a lot of space, especially in North America, but even in Europe, I think there's quite a lot of space. Like I was saying in my introduction, is all this off-street parking. It was not well managed by cities. It was actually never managed by cities, really. And to be able to actually move this offer of parking toward the off-street is a great opportunity, actually, to rethink those spaces. Usually, there's nothing more banal than a parking lot. It's usually very ugly to look at. It looks, economists will say it's a lack of productivity. Urbanists and architects will say it's an eyesore in the urban landscape. But nobody actually considers a parking lot as a mobility tool. And it is a great tool. And this is a great place where we should have EV charging station, which is happening in some areas, especially the fast ones because the infrastructure is so heavy. But also a great place to actually put all the different alternative mode of transportation in one same place. Also, you can put some parcel lockers. You can put some safe bike station and all these different modes. And you need to put them in the neighborhoods. And that's the great thing because usually those lots are actually in the neighborhoods. And to finish, the great thing about this is that parking are usually not used to full capacity to which they were designed. So you can actually remove easily, on average, 1/3 of the stalls, give them to something else, another function, and you will still accommodate the motorist demand.
Well, the main problem is the number of cars. So if I have to do something, I have to reduce the number of cars, not only the cars that move in the streets, but the property of the cars. The real problem is the number of cars owned by the people. There are some people who own 4 cars, 5 cars. In Rome, there's a person that we just looking some days ago that owns 72 cars. And so the problem is not for where the garage but the people that live in the streets. And so the main problem is to reduce the number of cars. But I think that mobility is a very difficult subject, and it's like a piano or a big equalizer, and if you have to put every kind of sound at the right place because the melody doesn't come. And so I just count 88 pillars of the mobility that you have to manage very carefully to have a good melody. And so the main problem is to reduce the number of cars, pass from a car-centric city to a city who uses intermodality to move. But to do this, you have to do a lot of things. You have to use the public transport like the backbone of the city. And then you have to serve the last mile, with sharing mobility, micro-sharing mobility. You have to use Uber and taxi like, different kind of instrument to move. You have to have good technology. You have to have a lot of instruments of disincentive on using cars. So we have to we put in place low emission zone, congestion charge, and limited traffic zone to protect the center of the city. So if you count all these pillars, you're gonna reach 88 pillars to do and to manage very carefully, with very, with reason and with, very carefully.
I feel you have a lot of parking management problem listening to you. If people can own 4 cars, that means that they can park 4 cars.
Yes, but you have to look also at a specific kind of city you have. Rome, is not like London, is not like Milan. In this year, we turn 2,777 years.
Wow.
And so the center of Rome is not made for cars. They made just, I don't know, for the horses, for...
Right.
And also, the first low emission zone was made by Julius Caesar in 45 before Christ, because the carriage during the night made some noise, and so he put a low emission zone. And so if we have the same rule for the same city, I think that we have a problem, and we don't make the right choice,
I think Charles made some great observations about some regulatory changes that we could make. I would kind of categorize those as sticks, and we can have carrots too. But I would totally agree. Parking minimums, let's get rid of them. I would also suggest R1 zoning, end that, which requires developers to build developments that are only usable by people who own cars. It's just the opposite way to go. But part of the problem we have is a cultural issue that a lot of people don't think they want to use public transit. We have to win some hearts and minds as well. I'm just curious, polling the audience, how many of you have lived in a city where public transit was good enough that you ask yourself, why do I need to own a car? I wouldn't want to own a car. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's what we want to create. We don't just want to make public transit lower cost so they can do what they're doing today at a lower budget. We want to make public transit so awesome that people who have cars today give them up. They stop bringing them downtown. It's not enough to just serve people who need public transit today. We have to convert car users into public transit users. And so that's the one change I would want, to have public transit agencies set their goals on converting car owners to public transit users.
No, I wouldn't add any specific use cases. I think my colleagues have said the best ones we need to also focus on. I think the magic will happen, back to your question, is on partnership. I have been in product engineering for more than 20 years now, and the magic happens when we do what we call value stream, where you bring all the right players together with one vision of how to make the citizen life much better. And then from there, we come with like a backlog of ideas, and we implement it one after the other. So it's the fact where we together, coming with the city council, with the other technology player, telecoms, tech companies, councils, regulators, with one goal, all of us together, and then we go behind it step by step. And it's always an incremental thing. I think one mistake sometimes we do is that we dream big, which is great, but we want to get to the dream in one step, which is sometimes hard to get there. But I'd rather go there incrementally, and we say, let's put a vision together that every 3 months, every 6 months, citizens' lives will be better thanks to smart city implementation that we get it there. Behind it, when I speak from a telecom point of view, it's all about the foundation of the connectivity, and that's the heart of it is back to our previous discussion around 5G. So our responsibility is to roll out 5G as fast as possible, scale it across the country, ensure that we have the right capacity and the right coverage for all the use cases to be possible there. So get the right people together, build the right connectivity behind it, and I think the magic will automatically happen.
Lola, please, the last word. What was your magic wand for?
Yes, well, in Madrid, we are working in recovering the public space for citizens, and in this way, we are going to start at the end of the year a big project. It's the A5 Green Boulevard Corridor, and the objective is to bury a big motorway that access to the city, and to recover all the public space for the citizen with green areas, cycle line, pedestrian areas. And in this way, we are making a lot of pedestrianization in all the districts in the city for recover the public space for the citizen. And of course, as Rome, we have a problem with the number of cars. We would like to reduce the number of cars, and we are working with the management, the on-street parking spaces and off-street parking spaces, no? And in this way, also, we would like to electrify more or less the city with the cars and improve the buildings, and of course, offer for the citizen an intermodality inside the city with a car sharing, a motor sharing, a very good public transport with a lot of quality, with electrify the fleet of the buses in Madrid. And little by little, we are trying to recover the city for the citizen. I think it's the goal, no, for all the cities.
Excellent. Let's please give a round of applause for our esteemed panel. Thank you all so much. All right.